When the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
I can't do.
Welcome to the best soccer show. The best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go! It's the best soccer show. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, Nikki Soup and Salad in the building.
The youngest one in curls.
Oh, there it is. That's not an old man bit. That's not an old man bit at all. That's a young person's joke right there. We're live. It's Thursday.
When the right people come together at the right moment.
Is it playing again?
When they care almost as
Look
much
at that.
You looped it.
Got to get the production elements straight, Jason. I'm away from my home studio, as you can tell, which is part of the reason we haven't been here in a while. Now, if you're a bestie, you know that there's other reasons we haven't been here in a while. Things have just been busy with summer vacations. Jared, you went to your beach house, right?
For the record, I don't own it. I just went to a beach house that I rent. Yes,
I see.
I did that.
I see.
I did a Paso trip.
But you
the
do
4th
have
of
a
July.
pool. Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah. I got a pool. I live in California, don't I?
I know.
Imagine being
I
in
know.
113 heat and not having a pool.
It's 113 everywhere. I don't have a pool back in Virginia, and it's worse in Virginia than here in Puerto Rico for heat. It's wild right now. Humidity is a different story. All right. Appreciate you guys coming in and being with us here. Look, we are, 24 hours, a little bit more than that, removed from the end of the Gregg Berhalter era with the U.S. men's national team. I'm okay with it. Oh, well, somebody's happy. I mean, Nick sent us a text. Nick was like, I'm thrilled. I'm excited. Nick, why are you so happy about this? This is a sad day. I don't mean that he should have kept his job. I just mean like firing a coach is never a good thing.
I don't know. I'm pretty pissed off they brought him back in the first place. Like that.
That's fair.
That whole thing was stupid. Like what are we doing? To steal Taylor's line. But no, when they decided to bring him back, I had no doubts that he was not going to make it to 2026. I genuinely felt that. So,
okay. That's
Around the world here right now, though. It's the right move, right? No one's going to do
100%.
Okay. Just want to make sure we don't have anyone that has an outlier opinion here.
Well, look, I think
there are people out there.
I think that I haven't seen anybody saying he should have kept his job. I'll be honest. I haven't seen that. Maybe it exists. Obviously, there's a lot of people in this fan base that care about this team a lot who wanted him fired a long, long time ago. And as you said, Nick, I was on the don't bring him back bandwagon because I didn't think I thought you could make a case that it was a decent World Cup and they did some nice things and blah, blah, blah. And maybe there was enough to keep him around rather than change for the sake of change. But the Gio thing, that was enough reason not to bring him back. Like you screwed it up. Like you went and talked to people about some team inside nonsense. Like you can't do that. There's
a number of different things that I think that's one of the principal ones. And you could say that maybe he met the bottom level expectation for the World Cup, made it out of the group, So I guess maybe I'm just not a fan of multiple cycle coaches at the international level. Yeah. I mean, you see Didier Deschamps having success with it in France, but I think it's the exception more than the rule.
Gareth Southgate's doing okay.
And plenty of people would tell you he should have been fired before this Euros. Well, he's in the finals right now.
That's because English people are miserable, Jared. Come on. That's part of it, man. That's look. The deed is done. I don't know that we need to be pouring, dirt on the grave. Like, I don't even know that. What I'm saying is, I know people are reveling in this, that are talking, that are like, they're throwing parties. Gregg Berhalter is finally fired. I know there's a lot of people in the fan base who think we did this. Meaning the fans who were most vocal about getting him fired. And maybe they did have an impact on the federation.
No, Tim Weah did this.
Well, that too. Tim Weah, who's being lauded as a hero in certain quarters of the U.S. men's national team fan base. I mean, but that's where we're at. A lot of it's meme culture. I'm not trying to be an old man here, but a lot of it's meme culture. It's just like, get your shots off. Everybody's got to get their shots off.
Anything is worth saying if it gets you enough retweets and likes.
Pretty much. I mean, just don't tell me who's been around supporting this team for 25 years. Jared, who was in the building in 1994 watching the U.S. men's national team play soccer matches. Don't tell us that, like, this is the greatest day in American soccer history, or even the other way of like looking at this is like, we're in such a deep, dark place. It's never been worse than this, Jared. Like, we've never been this.
No, I remember
this
2018. Down. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the fact that World Cups weren't guaranteed for the most part for the U.S. So I'm not going to go that far and say any of that kind of stuff. Is it an important day in American U.S. soccer history? Sure. I mean, it's a seminal day because not only is it a change of the guard, there's a lot of pressure around this as well. It's a changing of the guard 2 years before a World Cup. It's Matt Crocker, Joe Cocker, saying that, hey, I am not afraid to pull the trigger if it's not going the right way. This is a big moment for Joe Cocker's tenure.
Well, I'm not. I think you're right.
He has to admit he's wrong a year out from making a decision.
The man's already making excuses, or he made excuses the second. Henry Bushnell got the dude on the record, speaking of Joe Cocker, Matt Crocker, that, I didn't really have a handle on the job at the time that we were doing the search for the, whether to bring back Gregg or to hire somebody. I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but what he said was, I really have an understanding of the job now. Like, I really have an understanding of this team now, and we're going to do the right search and it's like, well, by you saying that, what you're saying is you weren't there in the right,
maybe you weren't the right guy in the first place.
Right. So either he got bullied into bringing Gregg back when they did that in June of 2000. What was that? 2000 last year was 1 year.
I think Joe Cocker is guilty of being swayed by the executive new generation speak that Gregg Berhalter got to put in front of him, like wowed by the spreadsheets and this analytics and stuff like that, because he hadn't seen it from him before. I'm sure this is the same stuff that was presented 6 years ago. Yeah. And I think, and let's also be honest, there's probably a lot of, and this is what we're going to deal with again right now, there's probably a lot of big names that are just not interested in the job. So now you're left with a bunch of second tier coaching options, and Gregg Berhalter may have been the best of people who are going to say yes to $2.2 million.
I think that's closer to reality, is that there just wasn't anybody lined up who was obviously better. That wasn't just sort of Gregg Berhalter 2.0 or Redux or,
Jesse Marsh was there.
He was, and he obviously thinks he got done dirty. But at the time, do you really think Jesse Marsh was so clearly a better candidate? I mean, it looks bad in retrospect because of what Jesse just did in Copa America. There are lots of caveats to that run for Canada, by the way.
Nikki, would you have taken Jesse instead?
Oh, man, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question because I don't know. To me, I think Jesse, and I hate to say this as an American soccer fan, but let's not forget Canada won the Hex. Like they're a good team.
Yeah.
And so he took a better team farther in this tournament than Gregg did, in my opinion.
You think it's
they might not be as talented.
Okay. Well, that's
they are
the thing,
a better team,
right?
Than the Americans are right now.
The argument is that Gregg didn't get enough out of the group during qualifying, that the reason they finished where they finished is because of Gregg Berhalter, right? And there's something
that goes both ways, though, because Canada also underperformed at the World Cup.
Oh yeah, they did
worse than the Americans did. So they each have a tournament where they got to show.
I don't think this is like some complicated formula that we have to figure out and round off, put the two here, and then I just think he was a fairly mediocre coach who may have been the best of a bad bunch of options.
Yes.
At both points of his hire.
I would say
at
no
both
to both
times.
Here's a question. 2 years on from that, it's been 2 years, a year and a half on from that, whenever he was made the decision. I can't remember when.
Last year, this time.
Yeah, June. This time. 1 year separate.
Well, 13 months.
1 year further on. Is the pool of potential coaches better? Have people left? The Euros are about to be over.
Whoa. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Jared. Finish your thought.
Are the pool of potential coaches that are going to take the job better now than they were a year ago?
Okay, so I think that is a two-part question. It's not just are there names out there? Yeah, there are names out there. The question is, are they actually interested in the job? Right? And so let's just go through this saga, right? Because this is what we've gone through it's been 24 hours, and we've already got this. USA target Jurgen Klopp as new manager after sacking Gregg Berhalter. Miguel Delaney, the Independent in the UK, clearly a guy who's got a finger on the pulse of what's going on there. Now, this story just said that U.S. Soccer reached out to Jurgen Klopp. It didn't say Jurgen Klopp responded. It didn't say Jurgen Klopp was interested. It didn't give any indication of things from the Jurgen Klopp side. It just said they contacted Jurgen Klopp. And then today, Jurgen Klopp rebuffs approach to coach U.S. men's national team after Copa America exit, right? And this is David Ornstein, also a guy who's connected. This is The Athletic, a reputable outlet, right? I don't care about dudes on the internet. I care about these guys reporting it. And even if the dudes on the internet are right, this is where I feel like we finally got some good information. But even with these guys, even with guys I respect, writers I respect, I still don't know what the hell's going on. And I think it's very possible, somewhat possible, that Klopp could reverse himself in the next 3, 4, 5 months once he's had a little bit of a break, once he's rested, recuperated, spent some time summering and wintering wherever he wants. And then there's a timeline question for the U.S. men's national team. Crocker is saying, we're going to have a coach before the September friendly against Canada. Do you need to? I know the fan base is chomping at the bit.
It's only 2 years. I mean, it's a short turnaround here. You know, I don't know that that's a
But
bad
we did
take.
this last time, right? Get the hire done because you don't have time to waste, or rush the hire and maybe Klopp's not ready, or maybe the pool looks different. Those are questions out there. Now, this is what I put together. These are just 6 guys who have been mentioned. I know some of them are a little more out there. I know there's guys that aren't here that have been mentioned. My screen's got Jurgen Klopp, Hervé Renard, we need to come back to, Steve Tirundolo, Thierry Henry, just because he's out there as mentioned, and I've seen the odds on him. Gareth Southgate, also seen this mentioned. I think Taylor Twellman was even like, what if Southgate finishes the job with England and then takes the U.S. men's national team job? And Wilfred Nancy.
There's no way that that's a move up for Southgate.
No, but where does Southgate go? If his time is up in England.
What's the next move up for him?
He has no real obvious, what?
Premier
League?
No
Who's lining up to hire Gareth? I talked to somebody. I know you're going to hate this. I don't have the WNBC drop. Maybe Nick wants to pop it out. Okay, go ahead. Pop out that
WNBC.
Thank you.
WNBC.
On WNBC today, I talked to a writer who said Southgate's been mentioned as a possibility at Manchester United. Now, obviously, they've re-upped Ten Hag for the moment.
Yeah,
but it's not like United fans are like, yeah, give us this is what I'm talking about.
Absolutely not.
Nobody wants Gareth. He could win the European Championship, and nobody in the Premier League outside of the bottom 3 or 4 clubs is going to be like, yeah, Gareth Southgate's our guy. He doesn't inspire.
I bet he doesn't inspire, but he's a big name that knows the players in the league. I think that if he wins a final, he'll get knighted.
Sure, but what does that have to do with the Premier League jobs? Like, okay, look again. Here's what I'm saying.
Coach in the Premier League before and get a team relegated, Middlesbrough.
What I'm saying is that he will not get a top 10 Premier League job. I'm not saying that he wouldn't get any Premier League job. I'm saying he wouldn't get a top 10 job. And if you're Gareth Southgate and you've made 2 finals of the Euros in 4 years, and you've been to a semifinal of a World Cup, and let's say they win on Sunday, you're a European champion, and nobody outside of the bottom 10 clubs in the Premier League wants you. Are you really going to take one of those jobs? Is that your next step? Look at what Yogi Love's doing. What is Yogi Love doing? What is Yogi Love? I know he should be on our list too.
Chilling
in his nose.
As far as I know, Yogi Love doesn't want to coach anymore. That's why would I believe anything else?
Because he hasn't taken a job. So yeah, I agree with you. There's no reason to think that he's available or wants to be available. You can say same thing for Zinedine Zidane, though, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, these are names we talked about a lot a year ago. These are names we talked about a lot. And if you bring up that graphic again real quick.
Okay. Well, so before I do that, okay, yeah, I'll bring up the graphic because I want to ask you about this again. This is not comprehensive.
No, that's fine. I just want to talk about like the fact that there's we talked about Thierry Henry last year. We talked about Hervé Renard last year as well. So there's a couple of people on this list that are rehashes from a year ago. But let's talk real quick before we go into who our preferred choices or anything like that. Let's put a couple other names out there right now. Let's talk about the Euros that's finishing up and so a couple of potential coaches that may be available. Yeah, let's assume every coach's contract is over, other than Didier Deschamps. He's already said he's staying on until 2026.
I know that to not be a fact in certain circumstances, but if you want to throw names out, I'm game for that.
So, for example, a year ago, we thought Roberto Martinez was not good enough for the U.S. job. Just coached Portugal in the Euros. Roberto Martinez's name was being bounced around after Belgium at the World Cup.
Yeah.
You know, and we kind of were like, nah, probably not. Portugal picked up on him, made it to quarterfinal, semifinal.
Yeah, but they underperformed by their standards.
For sure. I don't know that that's on him. Unless Cristiano Ronaldo didn't have a good.
Well, it's on him for not benching Ronaldo, but I digress.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna tell you a name that I am so enamored with after watching this team at the Euros, and I know it's one that some people are going to roll their eyes. Ralph Ragnick.
Of course. I've been
because
saying it for 3
his
weeks.
style is so. It's very American in the way he plays. That it's very Jesse Marsh. You know, like we talked about Jesse Marsh a little bit. There's a reason he comes from that school. You know, Ralph Ragnick's team is. I want to say it's realistic in the way he plays. He knows he doesn't have always the best quality of talent, but he's able to get results with what he has. He's very, very, I can't think of the word I want to say here. It's just realistic with what he has with his players. And he implements a system that's effective for who he has. And I think that is very similar to what the coach for the U.S. would have to do.
Well, so more than that for me with Ragnick is he is sort of a project guy. Now, I'm done with the whole, like, we're looking down the road and we're going to grow American soccer. And here's my 137 point
results-based business, baby.
Yeah, win me games. I'm over all the other nonsense.
That's the next guy's job after the World Cup.
Me games. Don't stop going to leadership conferences and win me freaking soccer games. Okay, that number one. I think Ragnick is of that mentality. And again, I think he makes sense as a foreign candidate that would fit with the United States.
The hard part is Austria needs to qualify, and there's no way they let him go.
I believe he's got a contract. I think the best teams are trying to figure it out. He's got a contract. Why wouldn't he have a contract to extend him from the Euros to the World Cup to try to get to the World Cup, qualifying in Europe,
especially after the performance they just did.
After that performance, absolutely. I think that makes sense to put him on a long list. I don't know that he would be in my top 3 or 4 at the So
just be prepared for Chris Armas to be the assistant coach, though, if that happens.
Well, Chris has got a job right now.
Right.
He's employed. He's the man in Colorado at the moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, look, I think Joe Cocker has to make a bunch of phone calls. I think Jurgen Klopp, you have to make that phone call. He's available. Of course you make that phone call. Doesn't mean he's going to say yes. Doesn't mean that you're going to get very far with him, but you make the phone call. Again, so much of this is about timeline. Because if they're saying we need a coach by September, I don't think Jurgen Klopp's going to be making a decision by September about his future. No way, shape, or form. Right? I don't know what's in his head about, does he want to coach another club team? Does he want to go into the international game? And I don't think you can wait around for Jurgen Klopp. As great as
didn't we wait around a year twice for Gregg Berhalter? The first time he got hired?
We hired him and then let him finish.
But there had to be a process. There had to be a process, Nick. Like,
that's the thing. Again, yeah, the length of time it took.
Just like it had to be a process to release him. We couldn't do it right the day after the Euros. We had to wait a week and do it on a random Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like, what was that Terry before?
Sorry, I put something. I'll put this back up, this graphic.
So you want to stick with these 6?
No. These are just sticks I came up with right before the show. But I know there are other names out there. Ragnick could be on this list, except his contract.
What's the most realistic name that's not on this list?
Well, I want to do this a little slightly differently. Because, again, you talked about last year and the names that we came up with. And I think we lots of people were shooting for the moon in their minds, but there was no real substance to any of it. Now we've got one of the biggest names on the planet available, and U.S. Soccer shot their shot. Like, absolutely, they should do that. So Klopp wasn't on the list last year, but Renard was, or at least our list. Henry was. Southgate wasn't, but I think it maybe kind of was around. I'm curious if you think that this job is more attractive than it was a year and a half ago or a year and 3 months ago when they were doing the process to hire Berhalter again. More or less attractive?
I think potentially more attractive because you don't have to do the Copa America as well. It's behind. You just have to worry about the World Cup. And I think
you don't
also
have a competitive match until the World. You don't have a real competitive.
Doesn't that make it easier?
Easier, but what manager wants easy? Doesn't a manager want to manage meaningful games?
Okay, that's fair. But also, we are a year and a half removed from the Gio Reyna bullshit. All that kind of stuff is
still there.
He's reintroduced.
Wait, why is it still there? Tell me, Nick.
I think that'll always linger. It's always going to be in the back of everybody's mind.
the way that
but
Gio's
the
parents
main
treated
operators
Gregg and all that.
the parents aren't on the team, and Gregg's no longer affiliated with it. So isn't that now the question is, is it all behind the players with Gio at this point? Still
For the podcast listeners,
feel free
laughing.
to screenshot the screen right now.
I threw up the the thumbnail that Nick did turning the Reinas into the Americans. That television show.
The Americarons.
The Americarons. That's right. They're the Americarons.
I forgot I made that.
Yeah.
That was a good collab between Nikki and I. I had an idea and Nick executed it fantastic.
Yeah, that was.
Wait, did you do it or did the wife do that one, Nick?
Oh, I did that one.
Nice.
There you go.
Good
So
it's
like, you're right.
Nikki's best hits.
There is some baggage, right? I've heard the argument that why would anybody want to work with this federation? It's a bunch of clowns, right?
Ooh.
Like this is what our fan base thinks. I've also heard it from people who know people who have played for the national team. This is a bunch of clowns. They don't know what they're doing. This is a federation. Why would any decent manager want to work with this federation? And I think that there's some truth to that.
Because it's a guaranteed World Cup coaching position.
Well, maybe, but I also think the American thing.
Plus, we have Chick-fil-A.
I would put Chick-fil-A number one. That's where you would go.
It's one of the best things you can get that's not available other places in the world.
Then we just need to tell these people you can't get Chick-fil-A on Sunday. No, unfortunately. Sorry.
And you can't be a gay coach and go to Chick-fil-A.
Apparently not. But what I was saying is the American factor, right? The new frontier, the cultural influence, all the stuff that comes with being America, which can be good and bad. I think it's why there's even a possibility in people's minds that Jurgen Klopp might consider. It's why Jose Mourinho has talked about coaching here in the past. Yeah. By the way, he's not on my list. It is that thing that like makes the world hate us and love us at the same time. I'm going to throw
this one up from the chat real quick.
Will trump the bad stuff at U.S. soccer for the most part, and money. This
from U.S. men's national team official. It's the actual team is like in the chat.
That was very confusing when they joined in. I was like, "What is going on?"
I'm looking at Stefano Pioli from AC Milan. Familiar with American players, right? What do you think about potential Pioli?
A couple of American players. I mean, let's not go crazy with it.
It's a decent name that's unemployed right now, but I can't remember. Does he have any international experience, or is it just club? I think it's just club.
Don't think Pioli's ever managed a club. I mean, if we're gonna go with Italian managers who have,
but is there ever been a coach that's gotten better out of Christian Pulisic?
I think a lot of that is circumstance, but no, that's fair.
I think there's moments at Chelsea, but it was 4 different managers.
That's right. That's true. I think it was a lot about injuries and lead time and the amount of runway he got and the confidence he got. But that's Pioli giving him confidence, right?
Who was his first coach at Dortmund? Was it Tuchel?
No, it was Klopp, actually.
It's Klopp.
It was Klopp.
There you go.
Yeah. Tuchel.
Barely. Klopp was there for the last. He came through the last couple months of the season.
That's why there was a lot of rumors early on that before he went to Chelsea, he might go to Liverpool.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's just play a quick game. Make it a pick your poison. Again, I don't have the drop. Let's see if Nick. It's not quite that.
Yeah. Nah, that one didn't work.
Okay, that's like our speakers are blown out in our 1993 Pontiac Grand Am.
You need a new Alpine.
Yeah, we need something back there. Okay, I got to hit Best Buy and get that new CD changer in the back. It's sort of a pick your poison in the sense of sexy or not sexy, right?
Okay.
Like a coach you would want or a coach you would not want is kind of where I'm going with this.
All right.
A name just came up in the chat, and maybe we'll lean on the chat for names. Throw your names out, and we'll do a sexy or not sexy with the man who knows sexy, Jared Dubois.
Okay.
Hugo Perez.
Not sexy.
Not sexy.
I don't think so. I think the mustard came off the hot dog a bit towards the end of his last job. I think he was really hot.
The El Salvador job?
Yeah.
Where it was almost impossible to do anything decent, and he did an okay job?
Yeah, but then
you think that's a black
tanked towards the end. I don't know. I don't think that is a progression from Gregg Berhalter.
You talk about a federation that's a mess. I mean, Hugo's working with a very difficult situation with El Salvador.
All right, what's Nick's take? Sexy or unsexy?
Sexy or unsexy? He already said no. He's not a Hugo. He's not a Hugo guy. David Wagner, a Klopp guy, best friends with Jurgen Klopp. By the way, I point that out.
I'm gonna say slightly sexy for David Wagner.
Really?
Yeah, I do think so. I think he knows the American game. He has a decent pedigree overseas. I think that there's something there that is at least a somewhat of a movement from the American-based coach that I think is kind of naturally a progression, but pushing us into more of a foreign-based coach as well.
No, Nick,
not going to move the needle. Look, I'm thinking about.
I don't think we can afford someone that's going to move the needle, Nick.
Let's put that aside. Let's forget about the money. Now, look, I'm a realist, and I'm like, oh, they're not going to pay $8 million to the next national team head coach. But let's just put that aside. Let's not worry about it. Let's leave that in Joe Cocker's pile of stuff to deal with. If money's not an issue, Jared,
they better roll out the damn trucks.
I mean,
this is ridiculous.
They should,
it's
right?
a World Cup. Come on.
Yeah,
at home.
Here
at home, right? So give me
Chick-fil-A.
If money's not an issue, then David Wagner can't be anywhere near the top of your list.
No, you could get him for less than Berhalter,
probably. And I don't know how important it is to the federation to take a big swing and get a big name in. I think that the marketability thing has to be secondary to the guy that can win friggin' soccer games. But the marketability element's part of it. You want to be able to put that guy on television. You want a guy to put that guy on billboards come 2026, don't you? You want somebody, you want somebody who's going to sell some tickets or get some excitement. And yes, we'll have decent players. I mean, Christian Pulisic is a very good player by American standards, but he's not the most marketable dude.
Weston McKennie playing in Cincinnati. That'll sell tickets.
Oh man. Yeah.
He's not coming, Nick?
KY is throwing out a ton of names. I think this is cheating, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's got Klopp. We know Klopp is sexy. We're not going to pretend otherwise.
Very, very sexy.
Super sexy. That those big teeth, man.
The Sydney Sweeney of the list.
Is that where you're going? Okay.
I was trying to be young for the kids.
Mauricio Pochettino.
Not sexy for me. I don't know. I've never enjoyed his teams. I don't know.
I think
sexy.
Pochettino's a very good coach. I also don't think he's the right kind of tough personality that we need right now. I'm not saying that he would be Berhalter with the way that he deals with the players and make them too comfortable, but
don't you think of him as a strategy X's and O's guys and that's more of a club style coach where you breed and build a system. This is international. I don't want that. Berhalter was that. He tried to make the national team play his system, and that's just not what a national team manager should be doing.
Well, certainly we need to swing the pendulum back the other way. Patrick Vieira.
Sexy, I don't think he's sexy, but I'd rather have him before Pochettino.
You'd have him, but that's not the question. That's just sexy or not sexy. I'm going to say no to Vieira.
I would say girl next door.
No.
Okay. I'm not. I have no reason to think his resume is what we need, and I do think international experience is kind of something I'm looking for here right now.
Yep.
Right, and so Pellegrino Matarazzo,
second sexiest after Klopp right now so far. For what we
Matarazzo
over Pochettino and Vieira, yes.
Wow, Nick, what do you think about Jersey bred?
Again, knows Americans.
Knows Americans, has international flavor in his background, having been in Germany for so long.
Sure, I'll say sexy, but I'm not like
okay.
I'm not.
We already said David Wagner, Hervé Renard, and I'm not talking about how he looks.
Obviously, dang it. Okay, I have to change my answer then. Sexiest on the list, otherwise.
My wife would pay attention.
The dude's tan is amazing.
Well,
I would say
healthy though. That's
Hervé Renard is probably the most realistic, biggest name that the U.S. can get. That's me, an honest answer.
Reports out, by the way, that Hervé Renard has offers on the table around 2 million euros a year from, I think, Egypt and Nigeria. It's definitely Nigeria. I can't remember the other nation off the top of my head. And that's definitely doable from a salary perspective for the United States men's national team. I don't know that he's taking those.
He is the hottest girl that might say yes to prom.
Okay, so you're putting this in a realistic. You're putting Hervé Renard in the realistic bucket, and that's
I am, because I mean, even with the other names that we're going to talk about here in a second, I think he is a realistic and yet good track record at the international level. I think, and I think we can both afford him. Even though I said you don't want to talk about money.
He's a higher gun, right? He's a mercenary.
He's Gus Hiddink, like he's like Timu Gus Hiddink.
We have not had a mercenary coach since Bora, and I don't even know you could call Bora well, I guess he had been in Mexico, coached the Mexican national team, came coach the United States. Obviously, a guy that
didn't he do a
very
Caribbean nation too
international.
before that? I feel like he did a
might
Caribbean
have.
nation as well.
He might have been Costa Rica or something like. It might have been something like that's not Caribbean. That's Central American, but it's possible. All right, Brendan Rodgers is on this list.
Super unsexy, but I also think he would be better than some of these other guys on this list. I think he is. I think he is a realistic coach as well. That he would not try to implement a system or anything like that. I think that
play to win. System out that works. Yeah.
While I don't necessarily want him to be the coach, and I don't think it's necessarily the best choice amongst the names that are here, it's realistic to me.
Okay. Roberto Mancini,
doesn't excite me,
of Italy, now in Saudi Arabia, I believe Mancini at this point, right?
Man,
no,
I don't know.
Not sexy.
Not sexy.
Interesting path.
Did win a Euro, right?
Did win a Euro.
Yeah, playing defense.
Man, this is getting deep. People are throwing out. Bob Bradley's name has come up.
No,
Thomas, not sexy.
I'm gonna bring up a tweet that I liked the other day.
But before you do that, one more name, because he was on the 6-man graphic I did, but we haven't actually mentioned him yet in depth. Wilfred Nancy.
Yes. So Wilfred Nancy, I think it's actually a sneaky good choice that is not going to make a lot of the fan base happy.
Oh, absolutely not.
And what I do like the idea of is Wilfred Nancy with Thierry Henry as assistant coach.
Okay, interesting.
Can you see it?
I think Thierry.
Technically speaking, yes, but I don't think that was like.
But who's had the better track record since then?
I agree.
Well,
and here's the Thierry Henry for 2 years
behind a bench. I mean, behind a desk and coaching U20s. So, I mean, I don't know.
I listen. Wilfred Nancy, for those who actually are paying attention, is probably a pretty good choice. It is just name recognition is not there. Okay, it's not going to move the needle.
But let me say this: something you just mentioned with Pochettino, something that will come up with other guys. Wilfred Nancy is a system coach.
For sure.
He is a club style. Here's my system. We're going to run it the best we can.
I'm going to give you one. You're right, and I'm going to give you one alternative that I still say yes, despite that. First year results in Montreal, first year results in Columbus Crew. The guy is able, despite running a system, being a system guy, he has a track record of establishing results quickly. And that's what this coach is going to have to do.
By the way, again, we are not considering here like some of the news updates, reports out, rumor mill stuff that is like this coach is not interested or this coach might be interested. I think that stuff is really hard to get a grasp on right now. Mm-hmm. Wilfred Nancy probably isn't interested in this job. I really believe that's probably the case, but I don't know for sure that he's not interested. So we're just talking about possibilities here, right? We're just talking.
Here's my thing about Wilfred Nancy. It looks good right now, but I'm going to bring up a couple names that should make us at least somewhat tempered from Wilfred Nancy. Jason Kreis. There's a time we have to be careful when you equate a coach that is hot currently with being the guy that's your answer to all your problems. There was a time frame where Jason Kreis was the heir apparent and there was no one else. That's the guy. That's the guy should be next.
Well,
and then because he was hot in a period of time. And then you can go back and say Jim Curtin. Let me
we have a tradition. The national team has tradition.
Jim Curtin, hot for a number of years, seems like the logical choice. We too quickly crown the next biggest guy at the coaching level in America. And I think this could be another example of that.
I think Jim Curtin deserves more credit than that. I know it's a bad season now and they've wrung that rag dry in terms of the veteran talent and everything. I'm not saying I would take Jim Curtin over Jurgen Klopp. I'm not saying I would take Jim Curtin over a number of the guys we've already mentioned, including Hervé Renard. But
this is the same conversation with Steve Gerundolo as well.
I wouldn't be mad about Jim Curtin. I wouldn't be mad about a guy with that kind of fire in his belly and a passion for American soccer and a clear notion of how to win games, maybe not with the best, most talented teams on the field. I wouldn't be mad about that.
I like this from Connor in the chat.
Mad about that.
I think this kind of sums up where I truly am. I want someone with national team experience.
Okay. All right.
I mean, when you think about it, Gregg Berhalter was an odd choice as a result. No international experience. And a lot of the guys we're talking about right now, no international experience. Say what you will about Jurgen Klinsmann, but at least he had a good track record with Germany. In the hindsight, we know that was more Robin, not Batman, pulling those strings, But I still think that this next coach, if you haven't done it at the international level, it may not be the right guy. which brings like the Renards and stuff like that more into play.
I'm absolutely in the camp that some well-won experience. And then again, this is why, despite the fact that he by no means is the guy people think of as the genius of tactics and this and that, but this is why Hervé Renard's so high on everybody's list. That's why Freddie Adu is on X pushing for Hervé Renard, because that's a guy who knows how to win soccer matches at the international level and has done it in a bunch of different places, which shows he's adaptable. Right.
Here's from Morgan. Jim Curtin has been successful for years with minimum resources. Now, I want to take this because she's not wrong. Take the word Jim Curtin out and put in Jason Kreis. That's the exact same way you could describe him at RSL.
No. Jim Curtin's had a much longer run than Jason Kreis did at RSL. He had
he had 4 good years of RSL.
Okay.
And an MLS Cup. And another, I think, MLS Finals or Open Cup, I believe. Is
that another Batman or Robin?
Those are Lave seasons, man. Oh my God.
No, there were good teams. They had good teams at RSL and they won games. But okay, I also think this is not to rehabilitate Jason Kreis or say he's a candidate for anything, clearly. But Jason Kreis was knocked off track because he stupidly took on the NYCFC challenge, which was obviously, I mean, in the end was a mistake. Was that because he wasn't good enough? Or was there a whole lot of factors
because he didn't have Garth Lagerway?
100%.
Could be, right? Could be that the players that they had that first year, remember they went out and got who they had that first year?
Pirlo,
Lampard,
Silva.
Villa.
Villa.
Villa was a good signing in terms of what he could deliver, but the rest of them, they had issues. So and from there, Jason Kreis never got it back.
Yeah.
He just never got it back.
Yeah.
And now he's running RSL again from a front office position or whatever he's doing.
But just saying, this is the danger when you just want to pick the hottest coach in MLS. These guys have been there from time to time. It's a crapshoot. Like you're picking someone based off current form, where that's, I don't know.
Well, okay, so this is my theory, and this is why I asked you whether the job is more attractive, right? And I do think that no matter when we're talking about in history, there were probably international coaches who would have been interested in the job. It's just the calculation was, are they better than the best American option? And I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with the national team being a place for our good American coaching talent to get a shot. And up until very recently, and this is person to person, it's not across the board, but up until very recently, the U.S. men's national team job was the pinnacle for any American coach. That was the top of the mountain. There was nothing higher than that, right? Because nothing was available. Nothing else was going to be open to you.
Thank Jesse Marsh for pushing the envelope since then.
Or your MLS club didn't feel big enough to justify turning down the national team job. You know, Bob Bradley became the national team head coach when he was in he had some back and forth, but clearly he had established himself as a very good MLS coach. If he had the biggest MLS job now, he might think twice about the national team. But back when he took the job, he took it as an interim because they were still dancing with Jurgen the first time around. And Bob was like, yeah, I'll do it because it's the best job an American coach can get. If that's not true anymore, right? Then you are talking about a different pool, and you are talking about maybe aiming your sights somewhere else. And that might be second tier in terms of like reputation and fame, second tier international foreign coaches.
Nikki, take Jurgen Klopp's name out of it. Give me your best choice, and then what you feel is your realistic choice for U.S. men's national team. Take Klopp out. If you had a 1-2.
My best choice probably be Tuchel.
Okay.
Thomas Tuchel.
A name we haven't really talked about.
We have not talked about him very much here in the show.
Man, he makes me uncomfortable.
But that's what I want. I want these players to feel uncomfortable. They were too comfortable.
He'll hold them to task. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They need a ass whipping.
He's definitely he's definitely like the high school government teacher you do not want, Thomas Tuchel. Okay, keep going.
What was the other part of your question, Jared?
The realistic one that you would be okay with.
Probably Renard.
I'm gonna be somewhat more pragmatic, I think, and I'm gonna say Renard is probably my higher level one, and Wilfred Nancy is I'd settle for that and be okay.
No international experience. only has limited club experience, has proven to be good in that first year. As
What's
you
your
described.
2?
And we're talking realistic.
I want somewhat unrealistic but possible, and then I want realistic.
Man, somewhat unrealistic but possible.
And that was my Renard.
I'm not even sure I know what is that level. So Klopp is unrealistic for the most part.
I think Tuchel is a good one for him. He's unemployed right now, but maybe
is he
like
really. Man, I guess I don't
know. The
Tuchel.
chat saying he doesn't have a good relationship with Pulisic, but
well, that's true. He bashed him in his book, did Pulisic. I guess the thing about Tuchel that it's hard for me to get past is he seems like the kind of foreign manager who would go, you're like the U.S. men's national.
I'm gonna tweak mine slightly. I apologize. I would rather have Ragnick than either of those. I just don't know if he's going to be available or not.
He's not. He's not available.
But that is my number one I would take in that category of potentially available that you could get. That would be highest level. That would be a number one. But I put Renard there because I don't know if he's going to be available.
I mean, if we're talking about guys that are under contract, call up Jesse Marsh. See how much it'll take to break his MLS deal. Like, why not? We'll just snake him from Canada. You can't have what we want, Canada. You're Canada. What do you think you're doing here? It's like, what are you doing in my room? That's my stuff. Stop touching my stuff.
Yeah.
Canada.
Oh, how about this one? Xavi's available, right?
Oh, man.
You think he'd love to have Des as his right back?
Yeah. You know who? I don't know that he's going to be available. There's a World Cup coming. It was a wild ride. But let's imagine if Marcelo Bielsa decided to leave. And he's capable of just walking away from Uruguay today.
After that fight, he might.
I mean, was he sitting on the cooler during the fight? That's what I need to know. Because
I don't know.
That's the guy at the backyard barbecue that goes wrong. It's like, I'm over here.
You damn eternal fence sitter. You never answered the question. Put 2 names out there.
I don't even know but I don't know who realistic is. Because I think Hervé Renard is
Find it for yourself then.
Hervé Renard's my number one realistic choice.
Okay.
Because I like the international resume. And I
so
think
what's your settle for one? If we would settle and be okay with?
Man, I guess I would put I think I would put Curtin ahead of Nancy. I think I would say Jim Curtin in that case.
Really?
I think it's more about the fire and the pragmatic attitude about winning soccer matches, and he has that.
I guess
I think he inspires.
He's too Berhalter adjacent, man. I don't know.
Why punish him for what Berhalter
did? Nancy
did?
plays a different style. Like, there's
why
something
does that
different
matter?
To what he does.
He's a club coach. We literally just went through a process where a club coach tried to make us play like a club team. And it hurt. It was painful.
Just because he's a club coach doesn't mean that coach will make the national team run like a club team. Berhalter just chose to do that.
So your bet
Ronald Koeman was coaching Barcelona, yet he's still okay to coach the Netherlands.
I don't think he did much different.
But I'm just saying, like, just because you're a club coach doesn't mean you can't coach the international game. But it is something that should give you pause.
Okay, listen, KY. Where's the ambition? This is the kind of shit that has us in the place we're in now. What are you talking about? We're talking about realistic. We're not talking about Jurgen Klopp. Everybody's number one is Jurgen Klopp. If we can back up a truck, dump it in his lap, and get him to coach this team for the next 2 years at least, I'm on board. That's number one. Where else is what other ambitious?
What's the next ambitious one? Well, yeah, what is ambitious after Klopp?
You can't just
Klopp doesn't know what's the next ambitious thing to go after.
You can't say, oh, you know who my number one is, and you guys are idiots and not ambitious if you don't say Pep Guardiola. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. Let's talk about guys who are either available or seem like they would be interested and would take the money. That's the thing. Okay. Again, this is where I'm.
Is it ambitious to go after Dalic from Croatia?
Ambitious? I don't think that's ambitious.
I'm just saying, is there a Euro? Is Southgate ambitious?
KY, give me your suggestions. Who is ambitious by your level? Since you think I'm creating a straw man, which is nonsense. But no,
is Southgate ambitious?
Yes, because of his record. Because of his record and his profile.
Guy makes the finals at the Euros with the national team. Okay, and he's managing a national team that's similar in personality to what the U.S. has. Yeah. Young players coming up, which is what England is.
If they went after Dalic, I wouldn't be mad about that. But we were just talking about the marketability of this coach and sort of like how that's going to impact this team. Would Dalic get better results? Probably, based on his history. For the record, Wagner and Matarazzo are ambitious to KY. How is David Wagner?
He also
ambitious?
has. He's the one that when you put up the chat earlier.
Because he's coached in foreign leagues. La 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 la. I get it. I mean, whatever. Now, the thing about Adalic is he's got his record rests with one team, right?
True.
And I've made the argument for Love.
Cups, though.
I've made the argument for Love. No, absolutely not. Not even close to top end talent that Croatia has, right? So, yeah, I don't know.
There's one name we haven't talked about tonight.
What's that, buddy?
We have not mentioned Cherundolo at all.
A little bit. I think we passed over him. I mentioned it when I was talking about my Kreis point, is that just because someone's hot for 2 to 3 years in MLS, are they good enough for international duty? And he could be. I think it's impressive what he's done so far. But man, I'm going to go back to my Kreis example because I think not that Cherundolo's not a good coach. John Thornton is a fantastic GM.
I think
he's a fantastic
Steve Cherundolo is 10 years away from being a very, very good, potentially.
I think he needs to make the jump to Europe and prove himself over there and then come back.
It's why he ain't taking the job anyway. So I'm not going to waste my time because Steve Cherundolo wants to go to Germany and manage a Bundesliga club. That's his goal. And we've seen it already. It's really hard to go from U.S. men's national team head coach to a big club job in Europe.
I like this from Morgan. I would consider Cherundolo after 2026. Needs a few more years under his belt. I like that because then you're starting a new cycle of a new narrative. You know, like where's this team? Who's going to take this team 4 years into the future? Right now, this is I need a coach to win in the next 2 years. Those are two different mindsets. It's gun for hire, someone with experience, and someone that can get results quickly. You know, and then you hire the next version of the guy who has a plan for where they want to take U.S. soccer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, look, this is a hard conversation because you can throw names out all you want. Right?
Nick's just mad we didn't say Pat Noonan.
No, I hope not. God, no. A lot of FC Cincinnati fans think it's going to happen. I think that's ridiculous.
No, I don't.
Not before Curtin. Not before Curtin.
He's not
like he said, I think he comes from Curtin's. Like he's kind of like Bruce Arena to Bob Bradley. You know, where I think Bob Bradley gets the chance before. Bruce Arena gets the chance before Bob Bradley, and I think that's the way Curtin and Noonan are kind of.
Here's what we're doing. We're trying to frame a conversation. We added certain parameters to try to get to a place of talking about certain. Now you asked me like realistic, whatever. I mean, is I don't know, Roberto Mancini realistic? Is Roberto Martinez realistic? Is Roberto Martinez a better choice than any MLS option? And there's no guarantee that you think Roberto Martinez is a better option than anybody in MLS?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. International experience.
International experience, big tournaments, big talent that he's had to manage, you know.
Fair. I don't think he's always done a great job with that big talent, but okay.
True, but here's the thing. I think Belgium was always going to underperform.
That is convenient for Roberto Martinez that you're making that argument.
Okay.
It's not on him, it's on the players.
Did they rise to the occasion this Euros?
Obviously, just as an example, Gregg Berhalter is out because it's on him and the play. It's not the players that did it. It's Gregg Berhalter that did it. I'm just using that as an example because you're giving Roberto Martinez a pass with a much more.
I think it's slightly different where those players at their peak didn't perform. Maybe that is on Roberto Martinez. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. But that team also didn't perform in the Euros just now with another coach. So, I mean, there's a lot of players still on both those teams.
Also, a lot of them aged past their prime going into this Euros, right? Fair. Because Martinez had them during their golden years, their golden generation. Look, there is no perfect, quote-unquote, realistic option. Every one of them has flaws. Every one of them is less than ideal. Somebody has mentioned Miguel Herrera. Would you take Miguel Herrera to coach the U.S. men's national team?
I told you I liked the idea of a year ago. It's something that's fun in theory, but it's like staying up till 2 a.m. and drinking at 45. It sounds like a good idea because I used to do it, but when you try to do it, it's not what you remember. It's not.
You and I are different, sir. That sounds like a terrible idea. And every time I do it, I'm like, why did I even think? Why did I put myself in a position?
Hey, real quick, because we got to catch up with Nikki Soup and Salad real quick. Last time we were in someone's garage, what was that drink of choice you were drinking?
Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy, man.
Oh, those are good. Those are nice.
What I drink.
Stayed away from the mixed cocktails since your last performance?
Yeah, it's funny. I just celebrated a birthday last month, and for my birthday, somebody gave me a bottle of tequila and some Coronas so I can make some of those Corona sunrise Corona sunrises that I was making last summer. So yeah,
Wow.
Stay away from that. What is a hard lemonade you made yourself?
Yeah, that was bad. That was real bad.
It was funny for those of you that are not in the Patreon. That was a good time to be on the Patreon because Nick definitely released some bonus content.
I know we could do this all night, and I know the chat's going to keep going. This is a big fat no. Matias Almeida is a big fat
hard
no.
pass.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask you this question? And again,
it's
only because I'm basing this on conversations I've had with other U.S. men's national team fans that seem to think that Cherundolo is going to land the job here, whether we think is the right candidate or not.
Okay.
But to fire Berhalter to go to him, how much? See, I personally think this is not an inspiring hire. Like I'm going to be incredibly disappointed once again by the Federation if that's
get used to it. I think no matter who they hire, it's going to be that way because it's not going to be Klopp.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Everybody, there are certain people that will never be satisfied, regardless of who they hire. Now, the question I think that this is easy for us,
and that'll be great. That'll be heightened if it's American as well.
Well, that's the thing. So this is what I'm going to come down to. You now have this Welsh dude who worked with the English Federation and ran Southampton, who's in charge of U.S. soccer's choice here, nominally. Like they have to pass it through the board and all this stuff. But Matt Crocker is the guy that's supposed to be making this decision. Joe Cocker, excuse me.
Got you. Yeah,
he's supposed to be the one going through this process and all of that. And if you have, if you have two guys who's neither of them have incredible resumes, or maybe their resumes are like not really super comparable. They're both club coaches. One's won a couple of trophies in a lower level European league, or one has coached a team like David Wagner, right? David Wagner has no trophies, but he's got experience coaching in good leagues, high level leagues in Europe, right? And then you have an MLS coach, maybe with a trophy, maybe not. Probably Cherundolo has a trophy, so you give that to him. Okay. The question is, if you have two comparable candidates, Coach A and Coach B, if you strip out all the location information, you were looking at these. One is American. Obviously, that would give it away because you have no Americans in Europe. But one was American and one was not. Do you hire the foreign coach just to say, we're shaking it up, we're going outside the circles?
I'm kind of in that place. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of in that place. I think that this team needs to be taken out of its comfort zone. I think the system needs to be taken out of its comfort zone. And I know we did this with Jurgen Klinsmann, and it was rough, like his way of doing things. But I do feel like this team needs to be pushed by someone that has not been maybe that has the rose-tinted glasses because they're American themselves, and they don't have their hopes tied to these players as like their identity or anything like that. Someone's just going to come in as an analyst and run the program.
Right.
And even Jurgen Klinsmann. The guy's American at heart, right?
Somebody who has no emotional connection to whether or not Christian Pulisic scores goals or Weston McKennie gets to be the star.
I want a dude that's trying to get his bonus.
Yeah, there you go. That's it's kind of cynical. It's kind of it's not. And this is what we talked about with the players, right? The players were too comfortable. Why were they comfortable? Because Gregg was their friend. And I imagine that for some of the guys who had tough club situations and maybe weren't playing a ton, the national team was like this oasis. Like, oh, I get to go and hang out with my boys, and Gregg is cool. He's the cool teacher who takes us outside for class. But that means you're not trying as hard because you're comfortable, because you don't have somebody standing over you going, if you screw this up, you're out. And maybe we need that.
Give Berhalter credit, though, in this regard. Wes McKennie screwed up, pulled him out of the team for a while. He has held players accountable, but
that wasn't for play. That was for off the field stuff. I mean,
I guess that makes your decision. It makes the decision easier when it's like that.
And I do think
different kind of play.
It's tough too, because we don't have, in most positions, we don't have an obvious, well, that guy should play over that other guy if that guy's form drops, right? Like you could make an argument for Luka, certainly recently, but there were times when he was hurt, and so there really wasn't a competition there. Right. And then
let's go back to Serginho Dest and the stupid red card that he got.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there was any punishment to that. We were told that they talked about it behind the scenes, but that too potentially cost US a tournament. And then Tim Weah right now as well.
Yeah.
How did this team not learn from Serginho Dest's mistake not 10 months ago? How is it not clear in the minds of every player that that kind of bullshit is not going to be tolerated? I don't know. It is mind-numbing to me that a player could do that again inside this coach's system. There's no accountability for Sergiño Dest. Who learned from it? Tim Weah just goes and in one of the biggest moments of his career does the same thing. I don't understand at all. That's mental weakness.
Yeah. All right. I was going to bring in some other stuff. Do you guys care about what happened in Charlotte last night? Do you know about
I just saw there's a lot of people in the stands. What happened?
Okay. I'm going to play something for you. Let's watch a couple seconds of this. I'll tell you what it is. Now, I don't know if you could see the guy in the middle, ponytail in the back.
Can you describe to the podcast listeners what you just did?
I'm going to. I played a video clip. This was the post-game scenes at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte for the semifinal of Copa America, Uruguay and Colombia. Colombia wins the game. It was a feisty South American
CONMEBOL game, man.
It was a CONMEBOL game, a CONMEBOL game. And we knew that it was going to be a CONMEBOL game. You know, Uruguay doesn't play games that are nice and friendly, and everybody's just swinging the ball over the place. Darwin Núñez, among others, I think Betancourt was involved. I think Araujo was involved. Ronald Araujo went into the stands to take on all the Colombian fans. I mean,
Darwin Núñez went full WWE, grabbed the chair, and tried to swing it. Good job on whoever that security guy was that stopped the chair mid-swing and kept him from hitting those fans with that chair.
How about this?
That's like Darwin Núñez. He always misses.
There we go. There's the bunch.
That's the Manchester United fan in the room.
So Darwin Núñez is the guy getting the most attention, and rightfully so. And we'll talk about the reasons
That's
apparently
unacceptable.
this happened.
Jesus.
But Betancourt threw a couple of bottles, and one of them smacked an Uruguay staffer in the back of the head and caused a bleed. So
here's the thing. Once again, we were talking about we're old enough to remember certain things. I'm old enough to remember when parents were worried about soccer because they associated it with hooligans. That was a thing that was a time in the 90s where that's what people associated with. And we've gone a long way. But you got a World Cup. You got a World Cup in 2 years.
Still talk about that with soccer fans to this day.
You got a World Cup in 2 years. Is Charlotte a host city?
No.
I'm not sure. Okay.
No.
But there's going to be people that are seeing that and are going to wonder, am I going to take my family to a World Cup game?
Yeah, some people might. Some people not.
Because here's the thing. Look at outside as well. Like this stuff happens outside these stadiums as well. Like this has a bad look.
I mean, there was fighting in Germany among fans. It happened. Like and by the way, there are fights.
But people who know the sport know that they already accept. We're talking about a bunch of Americans that are being asked to embrace this sport in 2 years from now.
That's fair. I will say this is not on U.S. soccer or anybody directly involved in U.S. soccer because CONMEBOL ran this thing. This was a CONMEBOL show. And the game day operations were
Stuart Holden make sure I knew that based on the camera angle in the last U.S. game.
Well, that too, yeah. That was part of it. I mean, it's not to excuse anything. And obviously this was, I don't know what the Colombian fans were doing. The Uruguayan players, including Jose Jimenez, after the game, passionately in Spanish, describing how the families were in that section or in that area, and the Colombian fans were coming down on them, and they were drunk, and all this. He was describing a scene in which their families were under threat, and that's why Darwin Núñez went into the stands. Now, fighting 3,000 people. Yeah. I also took calls from people who were at the game last night on WNBC who said the family was already extricated from the section when Darwin decided to come back in and start throwing haymakers. So this was maybe Darwin defending honor or just pissed off and let the Red Mist take over rather than he was going in to get his people out. Like, I don't think that was what this was.
Yeah, trust the team of Luis Suarez to be classy.
He was also, by the way, Luis Suarez also picked. This was an incredible. I wish I had this video. I should have gotten it. If you don't know, if you haven't seen this video, there's a video where Luis Suarez is getting into it with a Colombian player. I think there's even pushing and shoving, maybe a swing, like not super Darwin.
Is this very early on, right after the final whistle, like in the middle of the field?
Middle of the field, right?
Yeah.
He is kind of fighting with these Colombian guys. People are holding him back. He looks over and on his knees in the middle of the field, thanking his holy maker, who Jared Dua does not believe exists, was James Rodriguez of Colombia. Right? Okay. He's like doing one of these. Luis Suarez, who knows James, goes over, kisses James Rodriguez on the head, goes back to his fight with the other Colombian players. It was amazing. Like, this is the best. I don't know.
That is why I love this game. That right there. And then change jerseys with him after.
Probably. I mean, it was nuts.
Nunez got his shirt off right there. I wonder who got his jersey. That's a good one.
It's tough to look. It's tough to look tough when you're wearing the tracking
sports bra.
By the way, it's really tough to be.
Why is Brandy Chastain rushing the crowd?
Ah, man. All right.
25 years ago, last week. Might have been this week.
Oh, was
God, I'm old. I was there.
Might have been 2 days ago. Now I think about it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, gentlemen, I think we got to close this thing up. I would say to all of you who have been in the chat watching the show, thank you very much for participating, by the way. If you're not already a supporter of the show, patreon.com/thebestsoccershow.
The Slack hadn't gone anywhere while we were off.
No. That's still fire, right? That's still fire.
It's been very fun during the Euros.
This is what I worried about. I'm talking about Darwin Nunez in a bra. I'm not talking about all bras. Brady Chastain looked tough in a bra. Darwin Nunez.
Kick my ass.
Different thing. It's because Morgan's calling me out for being sexist. Which, hey, if I overstepped, my apologies. I'm not trying to be sexist. If it was sexist, that's wrong. All right. Patreon.com/thebestsoccershow. What else do I need to tell people? Likes and subscribe to the YouTube
comment
channel.
Down below with your choice for U.S. national team coach.
Yeah, drop it.
I want your realistic choice, and I want your unrealistic choice.
No, I want people to play sexy or not sexy. Give us the whole list. Everybody you can think of that's been mentioned. Tell us sexy or not sexy. And if you got it at number one, and if you want to try to figure out like what's ambitious, what's not, we all want Jurgen Klopp. And I'm fine with Joe Cocker blowing him up for a while. Just to see. It might not work trying to get a date with somebody, but maybe it'll work with Jurgen Klopp.
It could be because the key to the lock didn't have a big enough millions attached to it.
Money talk.
Could be that. Hey, Jurgen, you want a little bit of a break? International football is a lot less intense. You get to spend some time in the U.S. You don't have to be here all the time.
Hang with Carlo Ancelotti in Montana.
There you go. Carlos drinking whiskey in tiny bars and recreating Yellowstone or whatever he's doing over there. Carlos wild. All right. You guys have anything else you want to share? Any other business?
Nick, congratulations on your team being top of the table right now.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll see.
Thank you for putting your shit back together to be part of the show, Nick.
I mean, a good friend might also say, "Hey, congratulations on your team doing pretty well this season as well." But I guess that's not going to happen here.
Hey, how about them Galaxy?
Hey.
I will say early on in the season, back when I was betting on soccer, which I stopped because I was doing horrible at it. I was high on the Galaxy, and then I bet on them, and they totally ruined it for me.
Sorry about that, buddy.
It was the first El Tráfico
I'll
game.
stay. Your team may be better, but there's not a team I more like to watch play than the Galaxy right now. Their style of play is very fun to watch.
All right, boys. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back hopefully very soon. Not next week, I don't think.
We'll see. It'll be a game time decision. It'll be on my part. We got some life things going on, but we'll see where we're at next week.
All right. Well, there you go. Check the Slack, check the socials, check the YouTube. We'll let you know what's happening. Thank you very much for watching, guys. See you very, very soon.
J. Rodius.